Hi, I'm Jennifer. Welcome to Salento. And today I wanted to discuss one of the comments that I get a lot of frequently about why we chose Puglia, right? Why we chose Southern Puglia, which is Salento, and why we chose that area because Italy's pretty big, right? So, and the climate and the regions are all very, very different from each other. So on one hand, yes, there was a lot of other places that we probably would have wanted to live, but this ticked off a lot of the boxes. So, the first thing was the cost of living. So, I found a website called Numbeo. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's numbeo.com. I'll put it down in the description. You can punch in any city in Italy, pretty much anywhere in the world where they've taken samples, and you can compare them to maybe the city that you live in or other Italian cities. So the one city that's very, very close to us, that's in Salento, is Lecce. And if you put Lecce in and use that as a comparison, the prices, if you don't live in Lecce, they're actually going to be less than that. So if you're living in another area and you don't want to live in a city or a busy city, your costs could be less than what that actually says. Some of the things like food, maybe a few cents, but rents and utilities and things like that, they're all different. So I would go on that site and you can compare yours. You can compare it to Rome, say, or another city that you were looking at, and then compare that to Lecce and see how those costs compare. So, um, one of the other things, which this was really a big one for me, a big decision breaker, was no earthquakes. So I know people are putting in the comments, they're like, well, there's earthquakes in Italy, and I don't want to live in Italy, and I don't want to, have to deal with earthquakes. There aren't earthquakes in Puglia. So if you look at an earthquake map, which is what I did, and I said, okay, where can we live? Because we lived in Florida for over 20 years, and I said I have just had enough of natural disasters and disaster prepping with, having emergency things like that. I mean, you should always be prepared for an emergency, but in Florida, it was every year that we were getting ready for it. And I said, I'm just so tired of it. I can't do it anymore. So let's find some place where I don't really have to be concerned with these things. And Salento in Puglia was one of those places where they've never had a hurricane. They might get a little dust storm once in a while, but all that does is really put dirt all over your car, or it might get hot. They have, the heat, the winds that come, and yeah, if that's the worst I have to deal with, I'm fine with it. But I just could not deal with worrying about all of a sudden that I might be sucked into the center of the earth, whatever. So, no earthquake. So, you don't have to worry about that. Another thing that was important to us, both of us being, we are both from New York, from Long Island, and growing up near the water, we both, we both like being near water. So, we don't have to live on the water, but I like being near it so that I can go to it. That's just the way that I am. So, you're in the center, right? If you're down, there's coasts all around. So there's beaches. So you have the Gulf of Taranto, which is the inside of the heel, right? If you're Italy's the heel, that's the inside. That's like the arch of the foot, right? And then the outside of the heel, which is the Adriatic side, the Strait of Otranto and the Adriatic, depending on where you are. Um, there's beaches, and then if you go down to the south, there's Santa Maria de Leuca, which is the point of the heel, the point of Puglia, the Salento, and that is beaches. I mean, they're all beach towns all around. So, I mean, in the summer, they're busy. The beach towns are packed. Everybody comes to the beach. During the winter, it's not as busy. They don't Most of the people don't live near the coast, but that's starting to change because the expats are like, this is beautiful. Why doesn't anybody want to live here all year round? The weather is nice, and you don't have to really worry about ice and freezing. So even if it gets a little cold, it would be the same as if you lived on the coast up north, except you would get, ice and snow. So here you wouldn't get that. Um, Another thing is, well, you can see the sunrise and the sunset in the same day. You could see, you could watch the sunrise on the East Coast, drive to at the end of the day, drive to the West Coast and watch the sunset, and it's beautiful. Um, there's also a ferry to Greece from Brindisi, which you didn't think Greece was that close, but down there, yes, it's very close, and you could just hop on a ferry and be on in Greece on the Greek islands the next morning, and it's even faster than that, but goes very slow. But you could actually get there a lot sooner. Say if you had a boat, you could just go over there. It's very, very close to that. um, Another thing that was important to us, well, to me, is that it's not very mountainous. So once you get past the if you're coming across, right, say you're coming across from Naples and then you turn down to go towards Lecce, it gets less mountainous. It's hilly. So we'll have areas where there's hills, obviously near the coast where the houses are on the sides of the hill. Yes, there's hills, but it's not cliffs. So for me, I didn't want to have to ride on this with the road bike. I mean, it's hard. So I'd like to go for nice leisurely rides, like long rides. I'll do long ride, but I don't want to be climbing up the mountain all day. And I said, this is going to be great because it's not Florida flat, but it's not, you know, Positano mountainy like that. It's kind of, in between, which is nice. So you do get the hills, you'll get little valleys and things like that, but you won't have, you know, hard cliffs that you have to worry about driving on, driving near. It's easy to get around in Salento with your car. You don't have to really worry about it. I just don't particularly like driving near cliffs. It scares me, whatever. But that's my personal opinion. So, next thing, which is one of the important things, is food. So, they grow things all over Italy, but most of the farming happens in Puglia. It's really a farm area, and everything that you get is so super fresh and right from the farm, and it's a longer growing season because it's in the south, so it doesn't get too cold, so the winter is shorter than it is, say, up north near Rome or Naples or other cities up there. The further south you go, the warmer it is, right? So those growing seasons are longer, they have more of them, and it's just great. So you don't have to really worry about food. Whatever's in season, because everybody's always cooking seasonally, you can get seasonal ingredients all the time. And it's great because, in the spring you have eat certain things, in the summer you eat certain things, in the fall and the winter and so forth. So that's one of the really positive things about that. Florida, I mean, no, Florida is a farming state, but it does get too hot and you can't really grow as much as you could, say, in Puglia and Salento, because it does get a little cooler and the temperatures aren't as extreme. It doesn't get so hot and stay hot for as long as it does in Florida. So that's a plus. It's really good for everything, for bike riding and everything, which is great. Um, Another thing that was one of the reasons why we chose this area was we like being pioneers, right? The first ones to do anything. And we moved to Florida, if you can remember, way back when. It was in the 90s when Denny's still had that 2.99 breakfast and everybody wasn't moving there. When we said we were moving to Florida, everyone said, why would you ever want to move to Florida? That's where, it's a retirement state. That's where people go to retire. And that was one of the reasons why we went, because for Dennis's job, he was needed there and they needed them. So they would, the salaries were good and cost of living was relatively very low then in the mid 90s. So now it's like you can't even touch anything in Florida. I mean, if you bought your house in the 90s, yeah, now you can sell it and make a lot of money on it. But that's the same thing that's happening in Puglia right now. The prices are low. It's not really built up. I don't think that it really will ever be built up. There's a lot of rules and things that they have in place to stop, you know, all of this building, and they really want people to renovate some of the older buildings, and they encourage you to do that with things, benefits that you can use to renovate these buildings. So one of the questions that I had was about the restructuring, and they said you just had somebody arrange for you to have plumbers and electricians and everyone come in. No, so we had a building company that handled it for us, and I'll put it in the comments if you're interested in the description box. The the property had to have this extraordinary restructuring permit gotten, and we had to pay for that. When we paid for that, that put somebody in charge of our whole project, and they oversaw the project because we were having multiple people coming in and out, and it was a lot of big work, construction, demolition, plumbing, electrical, everything was being done. So somebody had to oversee that, and we had to pay for that to be done. But the cost of that to get done was nothing compared to what we actually saved on the VAT, the IVA, on the building costs. Because once you do a restructuring, an extraordinary restructuring, they call it, um, you get a discount on the IVA, the VAT that they charge. So it's not 22%, it's only 10. So if you're doing a big job, it pays to have a contractor and have somebody that's overseeing your project, because you don't want to, be stuck. If something happens to, one of the contractors, they'll get somebody else to come in and finish it. And also you get that deduction of the discount on the taxes. So that's a really a big plus that we took advantage of when we had our house done. So there's lots of beautiful things to see in Italy. The buildings, they don't really change the outsides of the buildings. They'll clean them up and make them neater. They'll paint, they'll plaster, they'll do other things. They may add art to the outside when they're restructuring these buildings. They might add statues, all these kinds of things people are doing, but they're not really tearing these buildings down and building new buildings instead, because these are good buildings. I mean, our house was from the 1600s, if you can imagine. Our house in Florida was only 25 years old, and stuff needed to get fixed or replaced on it. But these houses are amazing. They've been standing for hundreds of years, and it's really nice to see, like what we did. We took an old house, but we updated it to be modern, and other people are doing that too, while still keeping that building pretty much intact, instead of just raising it and building something in its place, which is what they usually do in the US. If something's old, they're like, oh, just knock it down and build something new. But they don't do that in Italy. You'll find beautiful things in pretty much every town and city. So big cities, obviously, they're going to have a lot of big things. But even the small towns, our friends have a house in a town that has a beautiful castle in it, beautiful big palazzos, churches everywhere. Um, City walls, when they were building the city walls, you'll see some of them are still intact, some of them got knocked down, some they preserved. We actually have a piece of one of the old city walls behind our apartment that you can see from the apartment downstairs. So these these communities, these things have been standing for a long time, and it's just beautiful to see them and appreciate them, and know that somebody's not just going to knock it down and build a big condo high rise or something in its place. And they're very, very aware of that in Italy. And there's a lot of things you're not allowed to do to these historic buildings. So it's good that they have these rules in place so that everything can kind of stay nice and stay the way that it is. Um, and the last thing was these communities now, the expat community is growing so much. Every time we were out and walking around, we would meet somebody new. I saw you on your channel. Oh, I watched you. And this was happening all the time. I mean, we would have dinners and there would be 25, 30 people at them, new people, some of the old people, that were around, but a lot of new people that were coming. So we're meeting people all the time, all like-minded people that think like you and want to do what you did, and they just want a little support. They want to know that they're not alone. And this, I hope that this really helps you, because we didn't really have anything like this. We kind of had to figure everything out on our own. And now that I can share that with you and post these things on the channel, things that you could use to help you in your journey, if you're deciding that you want to live there permanently, or you just want to be able to come for 4 months at a time, if you get long breaks and you want to spend an extended amount of time there and get a visa but not actually become a full-time resident. um, there's a lot of resources in the videos that I've been posting that you can use to your advantage to see if get some advice and a little bit of help along the way. So I hope that all this helps you. um, you can be on your way to living La Dolce Vita like everybody is. All of us that are trying to get to Italy as fast as we can. Hopefully, it'll be soon. So I hope this helped you today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Ciao.